It is that time once again. 2024 conference preview season in full swing here as we preview yet another big-time conference. A conference that's very intriguing to say the least this year, the Big 12, as part of Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish, producer extraordinaire, Zach Phillips. I am merely Brad Powers. If you haven't seen any of our conference previews yet, you're just tuning in because you're a Big 12 fan. Kudos. There's not very many Big 12 fans. Also, congratulations if you're new to the conference, fun conference. But if you're new to these conference previews, what I'm getting at is we have a new sponsor, part of Hit the Books here. We're very happy to announce that FanDuel is an official sponsor as far as Hit the Books goes. Obviously, FanDuel, specific to college football, an industry leader, one of the best products and pricing going, tons of college football pricing offerings, a great live menu, first to the market, whether it's win totals, whether it's individual weeks, lots of fun types of bets, whether you want to bet some awards, whether you want to bet exact win totals or whatnot. It's all available at FanDuel. Obviously, it's easy to use, speed of payouts. I know you, though, if you're watching a college football preview show, you want to get some action in between the college football season starting here in a few weeks. And even though we're still a few weeks away from college football kicking off, in the meantime, we got a little thing called Major League Baseball going and helping us get through the dog days of summer. FanDuel is hooking up all their customers right now with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day for the rest of summer. You can take your booster bonus and bet on everything Major League Baseball related, from home runs to strikeouts and even the final score. Plus, with FanDuel, you can combine your bets in a live same-game parlay for a shot at even a bigger payout. So head on over to FanDuel.com, start making and racking up some of your runs and making some bets in the sun today. Disclaimer, you must be 21 plus, 18 plus in DC and present in select states. Optional requirement, wager requirements apply. Bonuses awarded as non-withdrawable bonuses, bets, or profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including bonus expiration. See terms and conditions at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg/help.com in Colorado, DC, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Vermont, Virginia, and Wyoming. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland, or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE New York, or text HOPE New York in New York. Knish, fun conference. You and I have been talking about it all off season. Obviously, with power conferences in college football recent history the last decade, it's been a couple of teams at the top and everybody else. With this conference, I got 10 teams as far as my power ranks, power rated within a touchdown of one another. If you want to bet a little to win a lot, you want to bet these conference futures, we've been talking about it all off season long. This is the conference for you, the Big 12 2024.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking depending on how many teams of the 8, 9 teams that could have the potential, maybe even, if you got your prime shades on, you could make a case for 10 teams that have a chance to win this conference. So it's going to be a wild one. I mean, great games every week. So this, I will say, of the realignments that have been done, there's a part of me that, like in the ACC, in the Big Ten, are like, this is stupid. Like, why is Oregon and UCLA traveling? Why is Cal and Stanford? This seems just right. Like, I feel like it geographically makes sense. The teams in it make sense. The type of programs in it make sense. I'm okay that, it's like Texas and Oklahoma left. And it's like, well, we've still got these teams here that make a lot of interest. And if anything, maybe it made it a little more interesting. So this is the new look conference that I'm by far the most excited about.
Agree. Yeah, we're talking, because obviously you can pay people now. We're talking similar bankrolls. Yeah. You don't have one team that can afford so much more than anybody else. I mean, any one of these programs, maybe this year isn't the year for you if you're an Arizona State or a Houston fan, but doesn't mean that next year or a couple years from now you can't be one of the top teams in this conference. I just think this is not going to be the exception to the rule. This is going to be the rule in which, every single year, 8 to 10 teams can win this conference. That's fun. We haven't had that in college football. Hell, we have barely had that even at the G5 level. So I hear you. Fun conference. Let's start, though, at the bottom. A hire that was made that I love, Willie Fritz. but I don't necessarily love their prospects for this upcoming season. Hardly anybody coming back from a Houston team that obviously Dana Holgorsen didn't recruit very well. Fritz had to hit the portal quite hard just to fill in some gaps, and it's an extremely tough schedule. We're talking about a team that's only going to be probably favored in 2 games this year, and even those 2 aren't layups, UNLV and Rice. You add it all up, this was one of my favorite wins, probably my favorite wins total position that I took this entire offseason out of 100-plus bets that I made was Houston under 4.5. So much that even though it's moved a full win, I would still lean under 3.5 wins. I love Willie Fritz, but I think this is a very, very tough year 1 for him.
Yeah, this is, you know what? I'm probably not as down on Houston as you are. However, that comes to say that they just don't have a layup on the schedule. like they do not have
zero.
They didn't get an FCS opponent. They didn't get anybody. UNLV looks pretty good this year. Rice is going to have their best year in a long, long time. So even in the non-con, it's trouble. And then, as you said, getting into conference play where every week is just going to be a type of game. And they got a lot of the upper tier Big 12 teams in this conference. So, even though I think the offense could be okay, there were some pieces that are left over. Willie Fritz could come in, run the same type of system he did at Tulane. I think the offense maybe gets some traction first, maybe a team that would be playing some overs on early. The defense is going to bottom out. Just lost a ton. They went the JUCO route. They did some FCS route. They had to complain. And this was a bad defense under Dana Holgorsen. This was a defense that was not good under Dana Holgorsen, and a program that didn't leave it in a great spot in terms of a lot of pieces. So, program that has some money, a program that in a year or 2 we might be looking to buy on. I agree with you. The Fritz hire be okay. This year, though, not much to advocate for, and probably going to be a year 0 type of situation.
Yeah, very similar to how he left. I know he won some games every now and then, Dana, but left West Virginia pretty much in shambles. Then Houston, no different. Willie Fritz, I'll be very optimistic year 2 for them to make a leap, not this year. Speaking of year 2, I got a year 2 coach that struggled last year, and deservedly so considering all the injuries that they had. But Arizona State is next up as far as going from the bottom to the top of my power rankings in the Big 12. Not much expected out of the Sun Devils this year in their first year of the Big 12. Win total is 4.5 and the under, and I agree with it. It's been under. The under's been bet. With that being said, very intriguing start to the schedule as far as the ability to maybe get some wins, starting with Wyoming. Not a slam dunk by any stretch, but they are right around a touchdown favorite. Then I think a huge swing game for Arizona State. Mississippi State at home week 2. If they're going to overachieve this year, that has to be a win for them, because besides that, at Texas State could be difficult on a short week. Texas State will be fired up, to say the least, for that one. I wouldn't be a bit surprised Texas State wins that game. BYU at home, they'll probably be a slight favorite there. But other than that, they might only be favored in 3-4 games this year. There's a reason why the win total is only 4.5. I think this is a multiple-year rebuild that was put in front of him because of the sanctions from all the sanctions that was put on them for illegitimately recruiting under Antonio Pierce and Herm Edwards and the fallout there. Dillingham was dealt a pretty tough hand here.
Yeah. I liked the hire. I liked what he's doing, but as you said, it's just a multi-year process to go through. They brought in, they had 31 transfers last year, another 29 this year. So he's trying to completely overhaul the roster from what he had come in. A couple of guys I like. They got Malik Brown from USC. They brought in, Tobacco, Jeff Sims, and Sam Levitt from Michigan State.
You like the quarterback? I don't.
No, I don't either. So that to me is a problem on a team that I don't think is going to be very good defensively. So I don't know what this team can really hang its hat on in terms of what side of the ball or what unit do you feel really good about this Arizona State team?
I like Scadaboo at running back.
So that we're running back, we're going to the running back room as what we like the best about this team.
Yeah,
that's trouble. And
wide receivers aren't nothing.
No, it's another team without a lot of layups, or with no layups, you could call it.
Yeah, no layups here. Wyoming is probably their easiest game, and that's not a slam dunk. Come on.
Yeah, so I think this is just going to be a brood. I like what Houston. We just talked to Houston. I like what Houston has back on offense, and then what I like from what I've seen from Arizona State. I don't know how they kind of are able to take a step forward this year. And I would lean towards the under on this one. I know they're coming off a bend. You would expect some natural progression, but I don't.
176. I don't know if I'm there at 176.
It's steep. It's real steep. I like, this is one that kind of got bet down. I'm not dying to pay 176 for it, but I still think there's a 3-9, 4-8 team.
Let's talk to the higher ups, Zach Phillips and Moretto and those guys. Let's get these conference previews going a little sooner next year so we can get in front of some of these line moves. So we're not talking, I can't bet it now. But yeah, next year, for sponsored, we're lucky enough to be sponsored by FanDuel. We'll get these up sooner in the summer. Yeah, I can't play 176. It's a little too pricey. Because one thing I will say, you never hear this. You hear of, coaches reaching out to the student body for like kickers and stuff like that. You've heard many of those stories through the years. They were doing it for offensive linemen.
Right.
Anybody weighing 300 pounds on campus just so they can have guys come in on special teams.
Like what seriously, like what are you doing? Go get an FCS guy in the portal. There's a student body. You want some guy who's doing a keg stand that just got up to 300, on Busch Lights, now playing left tackle. Like
that's how bad they were on offensive line last year. It was pretty bad. They did get creative, not to go in the weeds too much, but they fooled UCLA with the stuff they were doing. They're running like Scadaboo played quarterback in that game. I like Dillingham. They got to be patient with this guy. He's a young guy in his early 30s. Give him not. This is year one. Last year was year 0. This is year 1. Give him a couple more years to get this roster straightened out. Next up, BYU. Here's one where a coach I think can be on his last legs, believe it or not. And Kalani Sitake, BYU coming off a disappointing season, year 1 in Big 12 play last year. They are still fighting and clawing at the end against Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, but they statistically were very bad last year. Recruiting a little bit better as far as the incoming class for this year, but the senior laden class is not overwhelming amount of talent there. And I think a BYU program benefited from some easy schedule, that easy COVID schedule when they played a bunch of nobodies. Zach Wilson certainly benefited from that, to say the least.
Yeah.
When they've had to step up in competition the last couple of years, it hasn't been as good. And man, this year, outside of Southern Illinois, he was a pretty good FCS team. Not a lot of slam dunk wins on this schedule. Wyoming, they'll be favored in. Houston, probably. And then, underdog in the remaining games. I mean, I don't see a bowl game again. And I guess what I'm getting at is if they're not in a bowl game this year again, and the win total says they won't be, how long does Sitake got in Provo? I don't know.
It feels like the formula which worked at BYU for so long. I just don't know if it can work in today's college football anymore, where it was have a bunch of 23, 24, 25-year-old guys who have already done their Mormon mission. If it can work, they've gotten too far away from it because they're not this ultra physical team anymore that has, a 26-year-old quarterback. Like, it just seems that what they've done and I don't remember they tried to bring in Ty Detmer and go back to that. Like, I don't know. I don't know what this BYU program is really trying to be anymore. And I agree with you that it kind of feels like this team, like they're bringing in, I know they brought Jerry Bohannon from USF. They've got a couple of different options at quarterback that they're going to try out in the portal. Jay Hill, who I liked coming from Weber State, they didn't have a good year on defense. They got a lot of returners. I think that's one thing maybe they could, kind of lean on is that they got a lot of returners and a good DC that maybe the defense will be much better, but they don't have the requisite size and physicality that the old BYU defenses has. So I don't know. It's a program that seems like it's kind of in limbo at the moment. And I don't love the direction of it. And I agree with you that Sitake might be just on the last leg here. And I'm just not sure what BYU football can be anymore in 2024.
Wow, you said that well. Do they go back to trying to throw in the football a bunch like they had, success for 3 decades under Lavelle Edwards? Do they do what, Bronco Mendenhall, had such success there? But I I just think it's growing stale. I think they need maybe some youth movement there, get a little more excitement on the recruiting trail. And I just think it might take a couple years to get adjusted to playing, you're not playing Utah State, and teams like that every week. So you got to get adjusted to playing some legit teams. You can't bully ball. You're not bully balling. They struggled against Utah for several years. Now you're playing Utah caliber talent every single week. So
yep.
I think that's a problem. So even though I think they're better than last year, man, I punched that power rating, improved by about 4 points. I still only get like a win total like 4.3. So that's why we haven't seen much of a movement on the win total, 4.5 all offseason. Next up, we've seen some movement on the win total. We've got some confliction here. Cincinnati's the next team. Early money on the under. Other people have come in on the over with Cincinnati. I'm not a big Satterfield guy. Transfer portal heavy for the year 2. Obviously, last year was a disaster. Could be a little bit better this year, particularly up front on that offensive line. Quarterback might be better, but a very underrated loss. Corleone on that defensive line. The Godfather, that is his nickname, had to quit the team due to blood clots. That was a pretty big loss. I mean, I would make a case he was their best player on the team last year. Schedule, I mean, I could see how some people, if you're optimistic on them, Pittsburgh's winnable, Miami, Ohio, Houston, Arizona State's at home. But, I mean, they got to hit on all those because I don't have a lot of other favorite roles when it comes to conference play. Where are you at on this one? You got to break the tiebreaker? I'm on under 5.5.
Yeah, I would lean that way as well. Just in terms, and I know they have the tough piece of it is they have a lot of what we'll call winnable games and teams that we're down on in that. With that said, don't like Satterfield at all. Don't really like the direction, what I saw from them in terms of the program. It was one of those, they lost Fickle, they lost everything off the roster, and I don't really see the build back in terms of what this team, it's probably just going to be call it what it is, kind of a bottom tier Big 12. So I don't know what the ceiling. It's like Fickle took this Cincinnati team to a ceiling that I just don't think is realistic. I think you're going to kind of get the fall back to earth continues. Don't love what they have at quarterback. They do bring back a lot of offensive linemen, so they're going to be kind of one of those, run the ball control type of teams, try and hit some passes. But again, as you said, Corleone, massive loss. They lost so much on defense. They brought in a ton of transfers again on defense to try and backfill some of that. I don't think any of that was really elite talent. The only argument you can make here is that Towson, Pittsburgh, Miami, Ohio, Houston, Arizona State, Colorado, those are all
they can win those. They got to win them. I mean, if they're going to go to a bowl game, I mean, you got to. So there's some winnable games on the schedule. I mean, they're not going to be overwhelmed in a bunch of them, but they got to take care of business. I didn't see a team take care of business. I thought they were, penalties, sloppiness, just didn't have it together. We'll see. I think you'll know if they start 4-0, obviously be in good shape. If they win those, sweep the board on all those teams they should be, then you'll be in good shape. But I'm a little bit more pessimistic because I don't like Satterfield. And again, similar to BYU, I mean, there's an adjustment period. You're not playing East Carolina and Temple anymore every week. And the recruiting went down the last couple of years under Fickle. This is in the weeds. After Freeman and the recruiting coordinator left for Notre Dame, the last couple of recruiting classes for Fickle weren't as good as previous years. So we'll see. Colorado's next. I know a lot of you are stunned that I'm not closing the show with Colorado as the top team in my power ratings as far as the Big 12, but I have my doubts on Colorado. I mean, you and I are back and forth on this team. We could talk and do a whole show on Colorado. I'll just say this. My current power ratings, and I got Colorado much improved from last year. I got them borderline top 50 team. That's saying a lot considering what Dion, what he inherited there. So he's definitely been good from the program as far as the power rating. It's up significantly over what it was just 2 years ago. I take that power rating, plug it in their schedule. I can't get the 6 wins. Under 5.5 for me. Where are you at?
You know what? This is a team, and I know we went. This is hit the books head to head, and it was a team that I honestly was more optimistic, and I probably fell a little bit too much to the Louis luggage and all that. I thought they would bring in, like I was expecting, and again, they did bring in a lot of transfers the quality of transfer and some of what they lost too, I did not expect that much exit. I thought we would just add, we trim a little bit more of the Boston. They lost some good players off of last year's team. Now, I think the offense, and we'll just go. Sean Lewis to Pat Shurmur is a downgrade. Is a big downgrade. And when this team was looking great out of the gate last year, that was a Sean Lewis offense. And then, Dion doesn't want his kid getting hit too much, and so they go to Pat Shurmur, and I just don't love that. I don't like, and you saw in the results were there in the second half of the year where they lost almost every game. So with that said, I think the offense could be very good. I mean, they had legitimate. I mean, Travis Hunter's probably a top 10 pick. Shadur Sanders is an NFL player. They've got some other guys I really like. The defense, less optimistic about. I don't like the defensive coordinator hire. He has no college experience. I didn't even know who the hell he was coming over from the Bengals. Yeah, I did not love that either. Again, he doesn't have a ton of talent. The number one thing he doesn't have is trenches in the sides there. So, and as you said, this is you want to talk teams that are going to play in the trenches? You start with North Dakota State and Nebraska, and then as you said, you got no favors in the Big 12. They have this schedule there's not a slam dunk win on the schedule. No, there's not a lot of games games. And I mean that. They should have paid. They just cashed the check to North Dakota State and went and scheduled, some D2 team or something. But I agree with you. There are just very few layups here. I wouldn't be as bullish as I was early on them. With that said, where you at? I'm comfortable going under 5.5 best bet and plus money. You got where are the 6 wins? Give me 6 wins. You go through it right now. You got the schedule up? Where are the 6 wins? I'll give North Dakota State. I'll give them that. I don't know about Nebraska. I guess they can win it, but they're a 6-point underdog. Yeah. They like them in that game. Just bet them against the spread. Colorado State, I'll give you Baylor. I'll give you Cincinnati. There's 4. Yep. Texas Tech. At Texas Tech, you got to win there. Listen, they're going to be an underdog in the game. They can win. All right, I'll give you that one. There's 5. You got give me another one. And all these games I just listed are not slam dunks. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. are you super confident they're going to Colorado State at them on the ropes last year? And then you get to the back half. Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State. Is Shedeur playing? NFL's on the future. They're thinking NFL. Travis Hunter, what's his snap count? Is he thinking, at the end of the season, or is he thinking, I got to get ready for the draft? I don't know the mindset. And Dion's already having problems with the local. Forget the national media. The local media he's having problems with. I don't know. They better beat North Dakota State, or it could get. And you want to talk about a bottom falling out? They got to win that game. They can't have an early loss. I agree. I totally agree with you. Yeah. Not unfortunately for the Buffs and the prime low truthers, not as bullish as I once was. So I don't know if you and I are head to head. We'll just take the head to head. But if you're watching out there, under 5.5 for me would be my best bet. But Knish, he's part of that prime cult. He loves it. I got it. Hey, listen, I got a pair of the shades too. I should have worn them. Yeah. I'm not buying it. Even though I've upgraded their power rating. I like some of the stuff they've done. I hate that schedule is not conducive to slam dunk. They're going to a bowl game. I don't see it. Baylor's next, a team that's, wide variety opinion on this team. I think it's the last year for their head coach, even though they got 16 returning starters, even though it should be much better. And I upgraded their power rating, Baylor, as much as any team in the country as far as the Power 4 level from last year, because they really bottomed out last year. They didn't have good quarterback play. You bring in DeQuan Finn from Toledo. He's in the quarterback mix. He's not a slam dunk to even start. So there's at least some competition there. Defense, he's taken over the defense. That's his bread and butter. He's also coaching the linebackers. So Aranda, we'll see. That's a lot on his plate there. He brings in a new offense corner. I like the hire, but we'll see if that can get turned around in year one right away. I'm under 5.5 on Baylor. Yeah, I think they do have some explosive talent, some explosive talent. DeQuan Finn, I don't know if how much I love that truly. And this is from a guy who watches a lot of MAC football. On a down basis, I know he got a lot of
football down to down. No,
he. I don't love him kind of taking the jump up. To me, he was a G5 player playing in a weak conference that not a lot of athleticism. Him now taking this jump to the Big 12, I don't know how well that's going to go. I'm dubious that if he does win the job, that he can be the kind of guy to get this team back to a bowl game. And this is another. We're going to say this about almost. I don't know who put these Big 12 schedules together, but to me, if I was playing in this new rendition of the Big 12, I wouldn't play anybody in the non-conference. But
no, I wouldn't play. And Utah is not a conference game. That is considered a non-conference game.
Yeah. So it's
and then Air Force is not a slam dunk. Air Force beat them in a bowl game. A little over a year ago. I would schedule 3 cream puffs. I
agree. They have some. The line is returning a lot. They've got some explosive talent at wide receiver, at return. Richard Reese in that. I don't know. The Aranda, I can't believe it's year 5 already for him. The Aranda defense.
What the outlier is the Big 12 title game at this point when he won the championship. Other than that, it hasn't been good.
Yeah. And that's probably the only reason. That is the only reason he's still stuck around at this point. But I just, it's like we haven't seen that classic Dave Aranda, and now he's taking it all over, and maybe it gets back there. But I don't know. I just don't believe it. I think this is more of, as you saw, 5-7 type of team that has a lot of teams that are above their head in this league.
Maybe we'll come back to that one. I think their whole season's that 3-game stretch. Air Force at Colorado, BYU. Got to win at least 2 of them. If they're going to meet expectations this year and get back to a bowl game. Next up, Texas Tech. Market's pretty down on Texas Tech. I like Joey McGuire. I like the things that he's doing there as far as recruiting and whatnot. Don't like this year's personnel. Only 10 returning starters. Quarterback situation is kind of an unknown. Question mark. Morton, is he healthy? Wasn't healthy in the spring yet again. Man, shoulders like your back. Reoccurring problems there. But not good as far as the outlook. We've seen the win total bet down here as far as Texas Tech is concerned. I will say the start of the schedule, advantageous. We talked about, hey, I wouldn't schedule anybody in the non-conference. Abilene Christian, North Texas, and a Washington State team that doesn't scare me is not bad. And then you host Arizona State and Cincinnati to start Big 12 play. So there is a pretty good possibility they can start 5-0. After that, not a lot of surefire wins, especially when you had a win total at 7.5. So I think 7's about right for Texas Tech this year, 7-5.
Yeah, I'm with you. That is the quarterback position is where it's going to, because Morton, he's had an up and down career. He's had injuries going on. Again, not 100% healthy again. Where do they go if it's not him? That could be very dicey. It's a defense that, it's improved since the old days where it was, that when they were there, the Mike Leach, the days where they were throwing it around all the time. So it gets better now, but I don't think it's by any means an elite unit. Taj Brooks, obviously their best player. So I can't get to 8 for this team either. And again, very easy schedule on the outset. One of the only Big 12 teams that kind of has a very easy non-con. So that'll be a big plus. But once they're in the league, I just don't like them head to head versus a lot of these teams. And so again, as you said, has to be, if they want to get to 8, has to be a 5-0 start. And then they're going to have a lot of, a couple of coin flip games on the stretch, a couple of games where they'll be a short dog. I can't get to 8 here. I don't like the team and personnel enough, but the schedule, the opportunity's there. It's just not a team for me that I think is good enough.
We going under 7.5, best bet? Or are we going to come back to it?
Come back to it.
All right. Next up, UCF. My power ranks, and I'm probably a little bit low on UCF because I think it's a team that's got a lot of upside.
Darling.
Yeah, a lot of upside, starting with KJ Jefferson, transfer from Arkansas. He's got a ton of experience, a good fit for Malzahn's offense. A lot of other transfer portal guys. I think it's as loaded of a running back room. Forget the Big 12 as any team in the country. That's how much I like the running backs. Harvey Richardson. They bring in Penny Boone from Toledo, who was at Louisville for a semester. Defense, I'm not wild about. Lost their best pass rusher up front. They got some guys, but I think we're going to see some high-scoring UCF games. boy, the market loves this team. I mean, I think they bet even the New Hampshire game at FanDuel. They bet that up like a touchdown already. So there's some people that are super sky high on UCF. I think it's a team if you want to take a flyer on. I know the prices are down a little bit, but I just think if they hit on these transfers, I mean, this could be the best team in the Big 12.
I mean, I think as you said, the offense could be absolutely electric. I think it's the right quarterback transfer in the right system with some great backs where they can hand it off and do a lot of ground game. I just can't this is one that, and we've said it a few times on this preview. This is like the market has absolutely. I mean, 8-1. We're talking about prices that were over 20-1 at some point when these were getting posted. So it has come way, way down. I can't get there where it's at currently. I would still lean over on the win total of where at the 7.5. But I agree with you. Some big question marks on the defense, and against the right opponents, I don't know. I love this offense. Again, when they're going against, this has always been a UCF for me, and I think why when they're going against. And it's almost like even transitioning coaching staffs here. You put this team up against a bad defense or a lower tier opponent, they're going to roll you. I mean, they're going to drop 50, 60. So they're going to keep it rolling. They're going to keep running their offense into the fourth quarter, lightning tempo and all that. Great home field advantage. Maybe the best outside of Utes, best home field advantage in the conference. Love the bounce house. But I don't know, when you put this team up against, an at Iowa State with that type of defense, a Matt Campbell defense, at Utah, obviously they've got to go to the swamp and floor. I just think, I don't know if KJ Jefferson can be that efficient, that passing, that when they're going against better defenses, it feels like this explosive offense tends to kind of going, you start rolling up 3 and outs, and then all of a sudden you're leaning on the defense. And it feels like I've seen the same movie play out with UCF a lot of years. And I don't think I just don't see it in terms of being able to win this conference. I do think they can get to 8 wins though.
Yeah. I'm not huge on Malzahn. So he leaves not always buttoned up as far as I'm concerned. And
that's a great way to put it. It's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, it is. When they roll, I mean, look if you don't believe me that they don't have high upside, look at even last year's team. They beat Oklahoma State by 42. Yeah. I mean, when they're rolling, I mean, I can see why some people, if you really think them to get rolling, and this could be a top 20 team, but on a week in and week out basis, especially when you're playing a lot of competitive games, I just don't trust Malzahn to be totally buttoned up every week. So, all right, there we go. There's UCF. Let's see if we get another team here. West Virginia, team that had a great season last year. Neil Brown saved his job. Opportunities like Aranda is probably in a similar situation this year. We'll see if Aranda can do it. But Neil Brown, when the chips were against him, he came through, to say the least. And West Virginia won 9 games. As we're doing this, in the last 24 hours, West Virginia took a little bit of money in the market. Week 1, hooks are gone on that double-digit point spread against Penn State. It's a tough schedule, top 10 schedule in terms of difficulty. So even though I think they're a little bit better than last year's team that won 9 games, I'm not running the window to bet over 6.5. That's how tough the schedule is for West Virginia. I know they don't play Utah, but other than that, I mean, you talk about the lack of slam dunk wins outside of Albany. There's not a lot of slam dunk wins on this team's schedule this year. I'm not sure that they're as fortunate as what they were a year ago.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, they did have some good luck last year. And again, credit to Neil Brown for taking a team that almost everybody in the country was down on last year. And probably getting the most out of that he could. Bring a lot back, but again, it's not a lot of elite talent across the board.
You like Green at quarterback?
I'm lukewarm on him, to be honest. That's as high as I could go on Green. They put super aggressive defense. They brought in a bunch of secondary transfers. So that was kind of their weak point of the defense last year. I think a bottom quartile in the pass defense and that. But again, it's a lot of different guys from Northwestern, Charlotte, Duquesne. Those are the type of guys you're bringing in to try and fix the leaks that were on the back end of that defense. And it's not not an elite physical defense up front. I think I would lean under here on the, like as you said, the schedule. Even though returning, I think as you said, 6. It is a week in, week out schedule, that back half. And I know the market's taking some love on them versus Penn State. I don't think they're going to beat Penn State. But yeah, I kind of actually like the plus money on the under 6.5 there.
You gonna take it as the best bet, or we're gonna move on?
I'm gonna, you know what, give that to, because I think 6-6 is a good year with this schedule, with the type of team they have. To me, I think, and that kind of I would keep Neil Brown if he does that. So at the end of the, if it was juicier, I wouldn't. But if I'm getting a plus 104 there on 6.5, yeah, I think it's a 6-6 type team.
That is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish, under 6.5 plus 104, West Virginia. I'm not rubber stamping it. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just, my numbers are 6.5. So I'm kind of neutral on that one. Let's talk TCU. You want to talk high variance? Look no further than TCU's last 2 seasons. National championship game appearance, losing record. This year, what's the truth of this program and this team? I think somewhere in the middle. That's why we're sitting here with a win total of 7.5. I think they're obviously better than last year's team, even though they don't have a ton returning back. Not wild about the quarterback. Sonny Dykes can sometimes leave a lot to be desired. Defense, we'll see if they can get back. They fired the defensive coordinator. We'll see if they can get back to at least where they were down the stretch in 2022. Schedule, we're going to know, I think, by week 3. All right, I mean, you could look at every game outside of LIU, the FCS opponent, and be like, oh, this is going to be a test. But Stanford game will give us a good context clue, and then a home game against UCF can be a big swing game for both teams and both programs for this year, and then at SMU. So, 7.5, I'd probably lean under a little bit, at least my current numbers.
Yeah, I'm with you. It would be an under for me. It was like Joey Gillespie was like the reason this team got to, play in a conference championship, that defense, and then, a couple of 2 years later, he's out the window, and Andy Avalos comes in. I'm not
wild about him.
No, I'm not wild about him. I'm not wild about what they have at the quarterback position. I'm under here. I think
best bet.
Yeah, even at 150, that's still playable to me, because I tell you what, I don't, and I know this. I mean, Stanford's taking some money in that week 1 game.
That line might be closing at 7 now, the way the market's moving.
Yeah, I agree with you. And even if let's give them that, let's give them the LIU, and it gets real tough real quick, because they've got to go at SMU, at Kansas. They've got UCF coming in, at Utah. And I don't think it scheduled not a lot of Big 12 favors on this one. And I don't love both sides of the ball, to be honest with you. And I know Dykes has always been a guy who kind of figures it out on offense. I don't know. I think they kind of got a very fortunate 2 years ago and getting that season out of Max Duggan. And then last year it looked significantly worse. And I don't know how much better it's going to look this year on either side of the ball. So under 7.5, I'm with you. I'm rubber stamping it, baby.
Another best bet, Knish, under 7.5. I'm okay with it. Kansas, next up. A coach that we love. I mean, how can you not, considering what he's done at Kansas? I mean, we're looking at, it's funny, in the state of Kansas, we might have another Bill Snyder type situation, considering what Kansas was the decade prior to Leopold getting there. Obviously, they're out back-to-back bowl games, won 9 games a year ago. Lots of expected out of Kansas this year. I'm a little lukewarm just because, I mean, for them to hit over 8.5 wins, Jalen Daniels got to stay healthy. They don't have Jason Bean as the backup as the insurance policy this year. They're ultra experienced at wide receiver, running back, skill position. I'm not wild about the line scrimmage on either side. Losing on offensive coordinator like Kodal Nicki. We'll see who is with Leopold back to his Wisconsin Whitewater days. I think that's a little bit under the radar loss. If we're diving deep, they don't have home. Not that they've ever had a home field advantage, but in recent years, they've been selling out home games. Now they got to travel to a soccer stadium for a couple of games, and then they're playing games in Arrowhead where they got to drive an hour. So that's not a typical home field advantage for Kansas there. I guess what I'm getting at is, even though I love Leopold, I bet under 8.5.
Yeah, it's funny. I as you said, there's a number of things. I can't go under on a Leopold, man. I think I just love the coaching staff too much. But you nailed it on a few things of like, how much does the OC, losing the OC matter? How much of it was, can they transition that? as you mentioned with the home field, a little bit wonky there for the season they're going to type of have. And you nail. I mean, can Daniels stay? They don't have that bad. I mean, Jason Bean won them a lot of games. The last season. I mean, might be one of the most underrated college players to come in and get. And so, yeah, that first 22. If you took away all the stuff we just talked about out of it and gave me like that first 22 with Dan, you'd be like, yeah, baby, this team can win the conference. There's just a lot of other factors there that make it. I don't want to go over on the 8.5. If anything, it'd be more of a. I'd rather, and I don't think. If I had to bet one of these two, I would rather sprinkle the 10-1 conference than I would take the 8.5. Just because I think the upside is there, but also lack of depth mixed with those other off the field factors that we're talking about. Mixed with
putting a half unit, quarter unit on 10-1.
Let me see that.
If Daniel stays healthy,
because I can't get to the top two teams. I'm not a Gundy guy in Oklahoma State. UCF's been bet down too much. To me, it's one of those. It's either an Iowa State or a Kansas. And I think Kansas just has a higher ceiling than Iowa State does personnel wise.
So you doing a quarter unit, half unit, 10-1?
Yeah, give me a little rock jump, baby.
You gotta have some fun.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, this is marketing 101. I'll put the tout hat on. From a show perspective, if we got a nice 10-1, juicy, and it's coming down the end of the season, be good for the show, just like New Mexico State was last year for the show. So just saying, 10-1, we gotta have something. Iowa State next up. Team, you can talk about returning production. 20 returning starters. And a lot of the rankings that are out there, number one returning production in the entire country. Is Matt Campbell, when expectations are high, like they were a couple of years ago, didn't meet those expectations, to say the least, when they were really low last year. Met them, and then they got to a bowl game. Didn't handle the bowl game too well, though, as a favorite. So some more expectations this year. Will be interesting to see how he handles it. I think you just finishing up Kansas. I think that's why I kind of lean towards your 10-1 there. I think this talent level and this style of play has a ceiling. So it makes sense that when not much is expected, they consistently play at this level. It doesn't matter their experience level. And they all play within that system, that 3-3-5 defense. Yeah. Relatively, they had some more upside at quarterback than we expected last year with Rocco Beck. But how much better does he get? It's not like they have 4 and 5 stars talent. He just gets a lot out of his 3 stars. But even though they're back for 3-4 years as starters, they don't consistently get better. They hit that peak and hit it early and just remain there. That's why I have been wild about Iowa State. A lot of people are betting their futures. I don't think the upside is a Big 12 championship for this team. I don't see it. You either bet the win total early, and that's about it.
No, I agree. You know what? I love that breakdown on your side of it there. I'm going to relay a lot of things there. It's just the ceiling. And Iowa State's, when under Matt Campbell and even before Matt Campbell, has really never been that elite Big 12 champion type of team. And even if you want to call this a watered down version without Oklahoma and Texas, there's still a lot of good teams in this league this year. And this feels to me like a classic overrated returning production type team where it's not a lot of elite returning production. It's a good team. I mean, I don't think this team, falls off a cliff or any of that or does it. But again, I mean, you see it just in the win total there. Pretty much a flat on the 7.5. Again, they bring some nice pieces back. Had some highs last year, but I don't think Brock Beck's an elite player. I don't think any of their guys on the outside. I know that. I mean, they brought in a couple of guys from Army and North Dakota State and a couple other slot targets there. So, and again, that the 3-3-5. Let me see if I can. There was a time when Campbell, that 3-3-5 defense, when everybody in this conference was running a spread offense, where he had a distinct advantage against most of the conference because he ran a defense that a lot of these schools couldn't figure out.
Now everybody has 5 defensive backs.
Yeah, now everybody's running that system, and a lot of just schools in the conference itself don't really run that pass. Even Texas Tech doesn't really run the same. It used to be like that every year. Matt Campbell versus Texas Tech was like an auto bet because they couldn't run their offense against them. A lot of schools don't run that type of, just standard 5-wide spread anymore. A lot of schools run 3-3-5 on defense. I think what made him special and probably why he should have took, one of those big paying jobs he could have got in, 2-3 years ago. I think it's just kind of a meh now. So yeah, I'm not in love with, I have no interest in this team from a futures perspective. And I think the win total's kind of about spot on at 7.5.
Yeah. And I think Matt Campbell's a pretty good coach, but is he better than Ferentz? Let's look at is he better than Willie Fritz? Neil Brown, is he considerably better? At Kansas, I mean, that's another reason why I kind of like the Kansas future. I mean, comparing these two teams.
I got one.
Leopold, not better than him. Not better at Winningham's new to the conference. He's not better at Winningham. Kleiman at Kansas State. He doesn't have this coach.
And I know we haven't done the Big Ten preview yet, but I'll get a best bet material because I know we go a little off the radar. Game of the year. Cyhawk. Give me the Iowas. There's some +3s out there on Iowa State at Iowa. Give me the Clones, baby. Give me the +3. I am not. We haven't done the Big Ten yet, but I'll give you a hint on my.
You're reacting to. I know what you're reacting to. You're reacting to a scrimmage performance.
Yeah, there was some. Let me tell you, I'm not a believer in the Iowa offense. I think I liked it even at the +2.5. Look, +2.5 -102 and some money line. I think this game should be pick. And if you want to shop that around up, but even at those, I think the Clones, I like that one in that game of the year. I think they beat Iowa outright.
For those watching that FanDuel, did they have a money line up on that, Zach?
Yeah, I didn't see. +116 there. That you showed Zach on the money line.
There you go, money line. Since you can't get the 3, might as well take the money line there.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that closes lower at least. So I think it'll be anything plus money in that. I think will be okay. And I know some of the history in that game's a little wonky.
Not favorable for Iowa State.
No,
you're taking them in a short. I'm stunned by this, folks. I mean, I know it's a really, 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 really bad scrimmage, and I don't like Iowa this year, but I mean, to win at Kinnick is something Iowa State doesn't do. So.
And hey, you don't do it until you do it, baby.
All right.
Hawk Trophy is going to I don't know what cities that's at school in nowadays.
What the city or what?
Well, yeah, what city's Iowa State in again?
Ames, Iowa.
Ames, man. We're taking aim at the Cyhawk this year and taking it from Des Moines back home where it belongs. So yeah, give me Iowa State in that baby.
Folks, that is Joey Knish. He's normally the star of the show. He really is the star of this one, taking bets left and right here in this Big 12 preview. Arizona's next. Another coach that we like. I like Brennan. I'm not sure that I like the personnel this year for Arizona, even though everybody's talking up the return of Fafita at quarterback, McMillan at wide receiver. The problem I have is on both sides of the line of scrimmage. They love the offensive line. I don't. They lost their best player, and man, the replacements I don't think are great. And that defensive front, I'm not wild about. I think it's a pretty decent hire long term. Obviously, Brennan's got some roots there at Arizona. Jed Fish left the program in better shape than expected, to say the least, considering what he had inherited from Sumlin. On the surface, if you're not deep diving, you see 13 returning starters. You see Arizona off a double-digit win season. The quarterback's back. A possibility of an All-American at wide receiver. I could see why, Joe Q. Public would like Arizona this year. The market says different, under. And again, hate to bring it up, but I know a lot of you are loyal listeners. One of the best bets that you could have made, because if you're watching Hit the Book several months ago, we went under 8.5 wins. So much so that your boy, Mr. Tent, threw a hissy fit on Twitter after we gave that one out because we're giving out too many good edges.
Yeah, and that was a real good one. Because we're talking, you usually don't get
full win.
Yeah, a full, including the full win there. Yeah, I like that one quite a bit. So hopefully, if you're a new listener, baby, you gotta turn it on earlier in the summer. And credit to FanDuel for posting those, being up first with almost all the win totals. But yeah, that was one a lot because I agree with you. I think Jed Fish, man, you like that. like that beautiful woman who just, finds a new guy, a new guy to date every year. The guy won't stick anywhere, but I really think some of it was underselling what an offensive. I mean, I remember when he was at Michigan, they had a great offensive, almost like borderline offensive genius. He can make it really work almost in any scenario. And again, Brennan, nice hire. Don't think he's that level of coach to be able to come in and immediately take with a decent amount returning here, kind of take the mail from Fish and bring it up a level. I don't see it. Again, I like 8.5 a lot better than 7.5, but if I had to play it,
you go under.
I'd still be leaning the under on the 7.5 too. Even though a couple of cakewalks the first 2 weeks, but it's a program that I just don't think has the requisite depth in a lot of places. Like Fish was able to kind of put in that offense. You're going to need that type of offensive output again to get to 8 wins with this team or to get to 9 wins. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'm worried about that defensive front.
Yep.
Yeah, they just lost pretty much everybody. They got a couple guys. And Manu at linebacker's pretty good. They got some bits and pieces, but hopefully you're watching under 8.5. I can't double back and say under 7.5. It just moved too much. Oklahoma State's next, another team that's seen their win total move significantly. I think you and I might go head to head here.
Oh, baby.
Yeah. I think at one point, and I think some people pointed out to this, what they brought up one of these podcasts. We were talking about, hey, this might be it for Gundy. There's that off-the-field stuff.
Last offseason, there's a quote of me saying that I think Mike Gundy's going to be fired at the end of the year, which some Oklahoma State fans still go back and find.
But here's the thing. They probably wanted him fired, too, after the South Alabama game.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I could pick up stuff out of there's that message board geniuses on, that's on X that I'm sure I could have pulled it up after that game or during that game, the live feed of their message board, and I'm sure they wanted to kill a guy losing by 4 touchdowns to South Alabama. So at one point, you look pretty sharp, sharper than normal, and then they around the season. I mean, a little bit of fool's gold, but then kudos. He got to the Big 12 championship game. He does what he normally does. He wins football games. And this year's team's better than last year's team, maybe even significantly. So I'm not sure that it necessarily reflects in the record. I mean, for it to be the case, I mean, we're talking about a legitimate playoff team to top, the 10-win season from a year ago. I mean, I like Ollie Gordon coming back. I like a lot of the Barts coming back. I'm not wild about the quarterback, though, Bowman. But, 5 returning starters on the offensive line. Defense has to be better. At least you'd like to see a little bit more consistency. I'm a big part of the pro positions on Oklahoma State over win total to win the conference. You're going to sell? You're going under 8.5 here?
Yeah. I'm going under.
We're going to go head to head because I
head-to-head.
would still go over 8.5. Where are the losses? At Kansas State, maybe? That's the only underdog role I have them in. So
yeah, I mean, I'm
maybe Utah.
Yeah, I don't think they beat Utah. I mean, listen, don't undersell the Jacks in week 1, baby. That is the best FCS program in the country coming in, and they play the same style of ball. So it's not like you're going to be able to bully ball this FCS opponent. I will give him this. Gundy took over, and I'll give him all the credit in the world for this quarter of the season through, and said we need to scrap this offense. We're going down. This zone read is over with. We're going to bully ball with Ollie Gordon, and it worked. It worked tremendously. And
all them guys are back, man. Come on.
Yeah, and those guys are back. However,
all right.
You know what else is that? It's all on a lot of that now. I think is. I don't know if you go load up against this front, that Alan Bowman can be a quarterback that if I'm going against this team, I'm putting 11 in the box. I'm challenging Alan Bowman to see what he's got in this team. And I agree. They did get some favorable marks there on the, in terms of the schedule, but it's almost a little Iowa State-ish here because I don't think a lot of these pieces are elite pieces that they brought back here, especially a quarterback. I think maybe a little bit out of the box there with the Ollie Gordon, what they want to do. I don't love this in terms of a conference future or an over type bet. So yeah, I'm good with the head to head on this one. I don't think they're a threat to win the Big 12.
Oh wow, I think they are. So I just trust Gundy. I mean, the only 2 guys to win more football games than Gundy in the last decade plus, you might have heard of them, Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban. So he wins, and I like the personnel on this year's team. But it's funny. You're not an Alan Bowman guy, but you're a Jack Tuttle guy. I just see how you pick and choose. Just the same guy. But
Jack, hey, well, wait for the Big Ten preview. Don't worry, a little teaser there.
I mean, what's the difference? But for that difference, tune into the Big Ten preview and listen to how Jack Tuttle is the answer for the Michigan Wolverines. Utah's next, newcomer to the conference. And obviously I'm really tight with these power rankings. If you think they sounded like out of position, keep in mind, I got 10 teams within a touchdown. So, we're talking decimal points here, difference between Utah and Kansas State. Utah's next. Obviously, the storyline for Utah is not only the first year in the Big 12, but the return of Cam Rising. Utah was completely decimated at quarterback last year. Most of the season actually playing with third string guy because the Cameron Rose kid was a kid or Brandon Rose is his name. He was expected to be the starter, and he got hurt in fall camp. So the offense should be much improved, to say the least. I liked what they did in the portal at wide receiver. So I think Rising, provided he's healthy, big question mark, has some weapons to actually throw it to. We'll see if Keithy come back healthy after being out 2 years. You got to like Whittingham. All he does is win, similar to Gundy. You got to like Utah at the line of scrimmage. I think they deserve to obviously be a co-favorite here in the league with Kansas State.
Yeah, not running to play the price that they're at, but a deserved.
Oh, not 9.5 wins.
Yeah, health is the kind of the key determination. I mean, they had so many guys, not just Rising, but a lot of pieces on offense go down last year. All their big name pieces, Micah Bernard, Kuthi, and so it's just one of those that I think this is the best team, player to player in the conference, but. It's all going to ride on the health of Cam Rising stay healthy, because behind that don't really love what they're having. The third string obviously was not particularly great last year, so think they're a deserved fave if they can stay healthy. I mean, Kyle Whittingham, you always love what he did. Their home field advantage, their defense, you never really have to worry about in terms of being a very good physical unit. So deserved favorite here. Just obviously can't get to the price with all the teams we've talked about in the competition in this conference.
Yeah, I mean, Utah, you can make a case that their strength of schedule has actually gotten weaker this year. But, again, not a lot of slam dunk wins outside of, the non-conference games. And they'll be favored in the majority of these games. It's just not like, keep in mind when you're doing a win total, just because they're favored at UCF slightly doesn't mean you automatically write that down as a W. There are percentages you got to use. So I actually think some of these prices I'm seeing with the over 9.5 really juiced. Boy, if I ever got a 10, and some of these books are getting close to that 10 range, I'd actually go under. Yeah, Kansas State's last, and certainly not least. I like what Chris Kleiman's doing here. Avery Johnson, the new quarterback. There's a reason why Will Howard's not the quarterback. It's not because he, ran to Ohio State. It's because Avery Johnson likely was going to be the starting quarterback for Kansas State, whether Will Howard was going to be there or not. Kansas State comes off a 9-win season a year ago. There's some bits and pieces coming back, to say the least. Obviously, you look at running back, they're loaded there. When you look at Giddens and when bringing in a transfer like Dylan Edwards from Colorado, that's a great 1-2 punch there. Different styles. Defense a little bit better than the offense as far as returning production. Where they lost a couple of under the cover guys. I know this is in the weeds, but their tight end Sinnott was really good, and their guard Cooper Beebe was as good of an offensive guard as any in college football. So there's some question marks here, but I just think it's a team. Why they're right here is I don't think it's very high variance. You know what you're getting from them. They're not going 6-6 this year. It's just, are they winning 8? Are they winning 9? Or are they winning 10? That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, no,
I like the way you put that, of where it's a very know what you get type of team. And Kleinman, it was just that. I mean, he was that way at North Dakota State. He's been that way at Kansas State. You kind of, since he's got it rolling, you kind of know what you're getting with him, and what they're going to run on offense, and they're going to be extremely solid on defense, and mirroring a lot of ways. Funny, Utah and Kansas State, kind of very, we'll call them similar programs at the top of the conference here, with established coaches, established styles of play. So again, Colin Klein out as OC, what that could be that. Receiver Phil Brooks, who I like there. So again, the Dylan Edwards pickup is very nice. We kind of know what they'll want to do. I may have not, and again, I I like Avery Johnson. I'm not one of those that thinks he's like the next comer or like any type of Heisman, that type of player. So, yeah, it's just one to me, kind of similar.
Your buddy down there in Florida ain't going to like that. Your Kansas State alum.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if I see the ceiling for this team as conference winner there. And so obviously can't play the price there. Again, just kind of think it's really a very low variance. Everything's kind of priced where it should be. Don't have any real hot takes or anything to say outside of that, and don't have any bets on them. So just kind of one of those. They'll be in the mix, but not one that I want to put money on. Maybe a team that I'll give you something that we can actually chew of if they can lose. Let's see here, state football. Let me get that. Just have the schedule.
Yeah, where are they going to lose? I kind of like their schedule better than Utah's. Just Oklahoma State's at home, Kansas is at home. Where Utah at Oklahoma State.
If they can trip up in one of the if an Arizona or an Oklahoma or your dynasty Oklahoma State beats them, in the first month, then you might be talking about buying this team and a good spot. And all along, that'll be the point to close it with. This is the conference where I think you'll get some great buying opportunities during the year to take some teams that lose a game and then be able to get them at much more advantageous prices.
Are they going to keep them markets posted, the conference futures?
Well, we'll have to talk to our friends and make sure they do.
Let's talk to our friends at FanDuel and make sure that they leave some of the playoff odds. And this is another one where you can play playoff stuff. If you think, I think they can still win the conference, so you can double back and obviously somebody's making the playoffs from this conference.
Yep.
The conference, you got an automatic qualifier, so you can double up there. I think they can win the conference. I can bet them in the playoff market too. So, fun conference. I'll have the superstar of the show, producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips, recap our best bets, several best bets, particularly from Knish. We had some head-to-head on Oklahoma State. We had a prior head-to-head on Colorado. Recap the best bets for me, Zach? I'm sorry.
So for the Big 12, we've got 4 total best bets. Arizona was given out earlier. That was back in April, and we took under 8.5 wins, minus 170. We have West Virginia under 6.5 wins at plus 105. We've got TCU under 7.5 wins, minus 150. And we have Kansas to win the Big 12 at 10-1. As for our head-to-heads that we've got for this one, we've got the Colorado. That was taken a while ago, 5.5 wins. Knish has the over, Powers at the under. And finally added here today, Oklahoma State, 8.5 wins. Knish under, Powers over.
Excellent job, Zach. That is the star of the show, Zach Phillips, and the man behind the scenes. All right. I mean, you got any closing thoughts? That's a fun conference. I think it's going to be a fun conference every year.
I agree. I mean, this is one that I totally not a 1-year wonder, baby. This is the new Big 12. I love it, and I think we'll see some exciting action and great games every week.
All right, for the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish, producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips. I'm merely Brad Powers. Thank you once again to everyone that watched, and also thank you once again to FanDuel, our new sponsor. You just watched Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network.